Hello again, and welcome to our latest edition of Portal Season 2024, even though it's now 2025. You know what I mean? The Portal started in 24, and we're kind of working our way through it. My name is Jay Tate. I'm publisher / Commodore / owner at auburnsports.com, and I'm here to give you, these were daily rundowns at one point. Now it's kind of periodically, but when situations change in the portal, I love getting here and updating with you guys about what's been going on at Auburn as far as the portal goes. Now, before you get to the good stuff here, and I won't delay too much, please consider subscribing to the channel. If you like the content, it would make me happy, and that would be outstanding. The news here is that Chris Murray signed with Auburn. It was officially announced this morning on January 6th, Monday. He actually committed on Sunday night, but I was kind of waiting to see how this was going to play out. We'll get a little bit more into that later. But anyway, Chris Murray is coming over from Sam Houston State. Out of high school from Wichita Falls, he was recruited as a defensive end. He played defensive end at Sam Houston State, and now he's going to be kind of fashioned as a buck here at Auburn. Technically, buck is just one of the defensive end positions, but it's usually somebody who has a little more lateral agility, who can back off the line a little bit and maybe play kind of a de facto linebacker role. J-Mac did some of that this year. Actually, J-Mac, I would argue, did some of his best work playing as a linebacker this year. When he was playing buck, he could kind of step off the line, and he was actually pretty good at like filling holes and attacking like B gaps and Z gaps. It's a major run defender. So Chris Murray had a good season this year at Sam Houston State, graded at 78.1 and 451 snaps. Curiously, he started the first two games for them, and then he was a backup the rest of the season. But I don't really care about that. I care about being on the field and producing, and he certainly did that. He was their number 2 rated defender this year. And that's for a good team. They went 10-3. This was their first season up into the bowl championship series. So he had a tremendous season playing for a very good team, and I think that's a good thing. He's been in the portal this whole time, and he had just visited Florida State not too long ago, and then he was looking at Virginia. I don't know why he would go there, and North Carolina State too. So, Auburn had chased Clem Lubin, who went to Louisville, and then Searcy, who had gone to Texas A&M. So they kind of widened their scope a little bit. Chris Murray kind of came in on that, and they were able to jump in and get him locked down pretty quickly. So I like the signing. I think this is a good depth piece for them. I don't know that he's a star. I don't know that. I went ahead and added him to the list of players that have signed in the portal season, I should say, and I gave him a B- there. You can see at the bottom. I think he's a little bit more, maybe he's just a really good depth piece. I'm not sure he's a star. I don't think he's a superstar, although there is a possibility he could be that. I'd say he's a 15-20% chance to be, demonstrably better than Keyron Crawford, and therefore you end up playing 400 or 500 snaps for Auburn rather than 250 snaps. That's kind of what you're looking at this point. Looking at the defensive line depth chart for Auburn, he fits in there at buck, and I think this is a really nice bridge because I have a very high opinion of Jamon Waller. Now, a lot of you guys who watch the team casually may not have a strong opinion about Jamon Waller because he played sparingly. He had a few games where he was getting a handful of snaps, and he had an injury. And I think rather than kind of work him through that, try to hurry it back and help the team later in the season, they just kind of shut him down and said, hey, we'll just come back next year. So Jamon is going to be a redshirt freshman coming in this year. He'll have a full, year and a half of getting ready, which is great. But he'll have Keyron Crawford and he'll have Chris Murray ahead of him on the depth chart at buck. And I think that's a good situation for him. I think he'll still have a chance to compete and maybe catch a few snaps here. But I think Chris Murray and Keyron Crawford give you some good options at buck. Key really played kind of poorly in the middle of the season this past year, but he had his 2 best games in the last 2 games. And I thought he played well against Alabama. He played with just a different level of intensity, and I think that really kind of, for DJ Durkin and for other members of the staff, kind of made them think that, hey, maybe the lights kind of switched on from him. I kind of think with Key, those of you who follow the basketball team, it's kind of like the way Chaney Johnson came up from UAH, and he needed a year to kind of get used to playing at this level, and for Keyron Crawford coming from Arkansas State to play at this level week in, week out. You're facing the really good defenses. Every tackle you're going against is a bad man who's got lateral agility. So, it's a different situation, and I think maybe he was coming into his own. It's kind of a gamble. Was he really getting better, or was it just happened to be his 2 best games? We don't know. But anyway, I do like the depth at buck, and they do have a lot of options there. So that is a very good thing. Also visiting here recently was Jeffrey Ehmke. If that name sounds familiar, it probably should. He played at Auburn, signed with Auburn, and was here, I think, a couple years. Then he left for Purdue. He might have been here just one. And then he left for Purdue. Played sparingly the first year. This past year, he played a bunch. 12 starts this past season, which is a full complement. 608 snaps. Graded at 61.1. Difficult sometimes, I think, for him to be graded fairly there because Purdue was just atrocious this year. Just super, super bad. And I think it might have been a situation where the team was so bad in all facets that it's like a malaise that just affects you. Even if you're a good player and a kid with high character, which I know Jeffrey Ehmke, but I know he is, kind of affects you and permeates your being, so to speak. 6'6", 302 pounds. Definitely a late arriver to football, so to speak. He just picked up the game late in what would be high school for him. So he's still, I think he's got his best football ahead of him from a skill perspective. He's a fine athlete, and he certainly looks the part. But it's going to be a tough one. He also will slide into that classification of players that are probably going to be affected by the Diego Pavia ruling, where the NCAA will give players who played either an NAIA or JUCO an extra year of eligibility. I don't know what Jeffrey Ehmke is trying to do with his life at this point. I need to ask him when I see him next time. But he's going to be starting this next football season, the 25 season. He'll be 26 years old. So I don't know if he's going to want to spend another year in college. But if there ever was a situation where there's a kid who's a little bit older who'd want to stay an extra year, it might be Jeffrey Ehmke, just because he could get a little bit better and hone his skills a little bit more. I do like where he fits in. Now, he has not actually signed with Auburn. I got to believe Auburn's in the front seat, the catbird seat for him, but we don't know that yet. If I go back to this defensive line depth graphic, he would fit in there at defensive tackle is where I think he would be. So he would be partnering with Malik Blockton, and I list that as one of Auburn's top needs over here on the left. I put Buck as green because with Chris Murray here now, that's been addressed. For me, the three technique spot has not been addressed, and I feel like Jeffrey Ehmke would address that. And honestly, if I gave him a grade, it would probably be a C+ right now. I don't think he has star ability, but he started so late, and he just looks the part like you wouldn't believe me. He just looks like a badass. So I don't know. It'd be good to get him, 250 snaps playing behind Malik Blockton, who's just a freak of nature and a really skilled football player. And Darian Smith and Antonio Coleman can kind of work behind those two guys and get themselves going in the right direction. So I like the depth that they're putting together here on the defensive line. I absolutely am fanatical about it. DJ Durkin clearly approaches depth charts the way that Kevin Steele did, and I thought Kevin Steele was as good as it got. He gets his – we'll talk about Durkin now. You got your guys competing for the starting spot. You've got the other competitors, and you've got your developmental players. You can see the tiers. You can see the depth building, and that's how you get good in this level because you've got to have depth. You've just got to have 3 or 4 guys that you trust to differing degrees, fair enough, but you've got to have at least three at every spot that you could put in an SEC game and feel like you can get some credible snaps out of them. You got to have it. Someone else who visited is Jeremiah Alexander from University of Alabama, 6'2", 232. Just played in 3 games this past season, and they were all kind of late in the year. And talking to my friends and associates at Alabama, they were just saying they like him. He was a 5-star kid when they signed him. They like him. He's a good kid. He hasn't done anything wrong, but the guys he's playing behind are just better than he was. Now, if you're playing behind Jahad Campbell and you're not as good as he is, that doesn't necessarily mean anything. You could probably still go and start at a lot of different places. The chatter at Alabama, and again, I cover Auburn, so I don't know a lot about what goes on at Alabama, to be honest with you. They felt like he would be better positioned as a defensive end. They thought he would be better there. I'm just saying the people that watch that program. He didn't want to play that. He wants to play linebacker. And Auburn, Caleb, I asked Caleb about this, and his guys inside the complex at Auburn say they want him to play middle linebacker at Auburn. So there's your situation. He's going to visit Clemson, Oklahoma, and Ole Miss. I believe he might visit Jacksonville State just because of his relationship with Charles Kelly, who's now the head coach at Jacksonville State. And the reason that he was able to enter the portal now, even though the portal's closed, is because Alabama was still competing in its bowl game. Just got lost to Michigan the other day, so he was able to jump in right after that. From Thompson High School in Alabaster, which means he's going to know Caleb Harris well. And he mentioned, Jeremiah did on his visit, that it was nice to catch up with one of his former teammates from Thompson. So, I just don't know exactly what to make of Jeremiah at this point. If you can't break through at the depth chart behind Jahad Campbell at Alabama, I don't hold that against you. I just got some questions about, what did he develop at Alabama? Is he better now than he was when he showed up? Is he actually better at defensive end? Whatever. The truth is that, let's say he was better at defensive end. Well, I still think Auburn can find a spot for him. I think there's an opportunity there. I was going to do a piece on Tanner Burns here, who is, at least on the bunker, which is our message board at auburnsports.com, a very polarizing figure, is fair to say. We reported the other day that Tanner Burns, who was a special teams coordinator last year at Auburn, is going to have another role this year, that he's going to be working with the defense in some capacity. We thought it was going to be with cornerbacks or nickels. Remember, it's changing a little bit with college football, where if you guys are old like me in my 50s, you remember when you had 9 coaches and that was all you got. It ain't like that anymore. Auburn can essentially have as many coaches as it wants now, along with any school. You just can only have so many so many coaches that can go off campus and recruit for you and represent the university that way. So I don't think Tanner Burns is going to be involved with that either way. But I still think there's some talks that need to be held to figure out exactly what Tanner Burns is going to be doing on defense. Could he be like a de facto or a top level like analyst type situation for defense and also continue to work on special teams? Possibly. I think that's probably the most likely scenario. Auburn still has another spot to fill defensively. In addition to that, even if Tanner Burns is the guy, presumably at edge is the spot where they need it. You can also shuffle things around because they have a lot of variability with the skills that they've got on the assistant coaches. And plus, DJ Durkin can coach pretty much anything. I mean, he has in his career, and he's been doing this a long time. So I do think that Schaefer, the assistant coach he's currently at Syracuse, coached with Durkin at Texas A&M. I think he's probably the guy to watch for the next hire on the staff. But Tanner Burns, yeah, he's going to be doing something. We just don't know exactly what. And the reason it's so polarizing on the bunker is that special teams were kind of asked this past season, even beyond like the field goal problems, which is kind of just a fluke thing with Alex McPherson getting sick and all that. But like there were a lot of penalties on the return teams, and the return game itself wasn't very good. And I don't know, if it hadn't been for Malcolm just being like such a crazy talented player, I don't know if they'd accomplished anything. So fair questions around about the special team situation, period, and whether Tanner Burns is worth or deserves a promotion. I'm going to wrap it up there, guys. The next thing, the next domino to fall, so to speak, would be Jeffrey Ehmke, which I would expect it will probably happen around the time that I put this video out. Anyway, guys, we'll keep you guys updated. Remember, basketball's playing on Tuesday night this week, 8 o'clock Central Time tip at Texas. Should be a good game. I like Auburn in that one by 15 points or so. Texas is very, very talented, though, so it's going to take a thoughtful approach to beat Texas in their building. I think Auburn can do it. I think they got the players. I think they have the mentality and the solemnity to handle the task. Anyway, guys, I will check you guys next time. Be sure and subscribe to the channel. If you are, in fact, enjoying the content, leave me a comment downstairs, so to speak, and I'll be sure to answer you as well. Thank you for watching, and I'll check you out next time. I'm Jay Tate. Good day.